All right, so Israeli ultra-Orthodox Jews protest military draft ruling. Thousands of ultra-Orthodox Jews crowded the streets of Jerusalem to complain about the Supreme Court ruling that the long-standing religious exemption allowing them to skip conscription, that means being entered into the Israeli army, no longer applies. Their special permission to avoid service on the grounds of religious studying has caused friction in recent months as the war on Gaza has dragged on. So here's some of what's going on here. Let's see. Let me go full screen. All right. Yeah, so they are having none of this over in Jerusalem. So, and that just adds to the divide that's already there, right? So, and here's more. I remember when I lived in Brooklyn, there was protests then. From the historic not just the war, but also the youth being drafted into the army. Just crazy. So, so if Israel didn't have enough problems with the world, basically just, saying, hey, we don't work with genociders, now they got division within the ranks. You already had division from the Israeli Karens who just didn't like the way Netanyahu was doing it in Gaza and wanted it to be worse and over with. And, just these incredibly evil people thinking this shit. And so they were protesting as well. Amazing. Crazy. So yeah. And that's not all, friends. You've been seeing all these videos on TikTok and here, YouTube, surprisingly, not as much, or on Twitter because of the gatekeepers, but of the genocide that's going on over there. So now the U.S. House of Representatives want to keep the number of people being genocided on the down low, which is insanely ridiculous. So this is from Press TV, and genocidal denial House passes amendment to bar citing Gaza death toll. So this was from Friday. It was updated on Friday too. You probably heard about this. The U.S. House of Representatives have approved an amendment that would prevent State Department officials from citing casualty figures from the Gaza Health Ministry as the Israeli regime's genocidal war on the besieged Strip rages on. The bill, which was passed on Thursday, now awaits Senate consideration, and the amendment has been met with strong opposition from Palestinian American Representative Rashida Tlaib, who labeled the decision, quote, absolutely unconscionable and indicative of a broader trust of dehumanization of Palestinians in the legislative body. Since 1984, she goes on, there's been a coordinated effort, especially in this chamber, to dehumanize Palestinians and erase Palestinians from existence. She said in a floor speech on Wednesday, the Israeli apartheid regime, she maintained, is carrying out a genocide in Gaza. So at least she is calling it a genocide. These others were hemming and hawing over it. I think that's what got Jamal Bowman in trouble, was he was a fence sitter. He was like, hey, it's genocide. And then it was like, nah, Israel's cool. And then everybody just said, well, fuck you. And that's how that worked. And now you don't have Jamal Bowman pulling fire alarms in Congress. Yeah, I know, right? Good thing Congress doesn't pick sides. Yeah, so banning news is now bipartisan. Of course. When you're paid by the same people, of course, you're going to do the same things. You just, one group is going to do it their way, and the other group's going to do it the other way. Let's look at it like this. Let's put it in sports ball terms, right? You got the Chicago Bears there, right? Go Bears. The Bears, right? The Bears have their own style, and their style is losing football games. But I digress, right? And then you go up to Minnesota, you know, and you got the Vikings up there. Yeah, you know, they have that horn. But it's different teams with different styles, but they work in the same league. Even though they're individual owners, and the individual owners are paying the individual players on those individual teams, it's still teams. And that's how it works in politics too, right? It is time for a secular successor state that is neither Jewish nor Palestinian, but have both people living there with no discrimination. Right on, Willie, exactly. Let's get back to this. So she goes on, she says, this is genocide denial. And she's absolutely right there. She's been shit on a lot of things, but Palestine, you know, she's between a rock and a hard place where she's at, but, you know, at least she's calling it out, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not praising any of these politicians or any of these elected people. We all know that this is all built on a foundation of shit, and unless you change the foundation, voting ain't going to matter. None of these elections are going to matter. It's just theater to you. But I digress, right? Okay, so it is what it is. She says, my colleagues want to prohibit our own U.S. officials from even citing the Palestinian death toll. So she went on to read it. Here are the latest casualties of Palestinians killed. 37,718 Palestinians, including more than 15,000 Palestinian children, and more than 86,000 Palestinians have been injured. She got those figures from the Gaza Health Ministry. And of course, that's all the ones that they've counted. You know, there's still people missing in the rubble. There may be people that are just like they were in 9/11 when the buildings collapsed on them. You find fragments of them. It's horrible, right? And it needs to be reported, right? I know. I said I'm going to interject my opinion too much, but goddamn it, you got to do that shit. You got to tell people, especially when you live in a country where the motherfuckers are funding this shit. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs, Barbara Lee, Jesus Christ, that's a long title, previously testified that the actual death toll could be higher than reported, with many missing, presumed deceased under the debris of buildings bombed by Israeli forces since October 7th. The amendment initiatives was led by Representatives Jared Moskowitz, Josh Gottheimer, that doesn't sound Nazi, Joe Wilson, Mike Lawler, and Carol Miller. I wonder if that's the same Joe Wilson that was a senator not too long. He was like a senator for 5 minutes. Representative Barbara Lee also voiced her objections on the House floor, noting that the Gaza Health Ministry's data is, quote, often the most information available about what is happening on the ground in Gaza, right? And, coupled with that, the information that you get from independent reporters who have actually been on the ground there, that's it. You know, you're not getting any of this information from the mainstream media, obviously, and we need to be educating our normie, family and friends, right? I mean, you don't have to be hostile with it, but you got to tell them, look, man, this is a straight up genocide. That ain't hyperbole. Just if they don't want to look at the pictures, which nobody wants to look at the pictures, but you have to look at the pictures to understand the extent of what's going on over there.